Lindsay Ann Hawker was born on December 30th, 1984, in Coventry, England, into a close-knit family. She lived with her parents, Bill and Julia Hawker, and two sisters Lisa and Louise. Growing up in a supportive environment, Lindsay excelled academically, attending King Henry VIII School, a prestigious institution in the city. After completing her secondary education, she pursued her passion for biology at the University of Leeds, graduating with distinction in 2006. Although Lindsay had plans to further her studies with a master's degree, she felt the need for a change and a break. In 2006, she moved to Japan, a country that fascinated her with its culture and traditions. At just 21, she began teaching English at a language school in Tokyo, one of the largest and most respected schools in Japan. There, Lindsay shared an apartment with two other foreign teachers and quickly fell in love with her new life in the city. On March 20, 2007, Lindsay met 28-year-old Tatsuya Ichihashi while getting off the train she took every day after work. Tatsuya was born on January 5, 1979, in Gifu Prefecture, Japan, into a well-off family. His father was a doctor, and his mother was a dentist. Although he had a degree in horticulture from Chiba University, Tatsuya didn't work and lived off 100,000 yen, a monthly allowance from his parents. On the train, Tatsuya fixed his gaze on Lindsay. When she got off, he followed her, and as she prepared to ride her bike, he introduced himself, falsely claiming to be one of her students. Lindsay taught many individuals and couldn't recall all her students, so she believed him. Tatsuya had been secretly observing her and knew she was an English teacher. As Lindsay pedaled away, Tatsuya jogged beside her, engaging her with questions about her background, education, and reasons for being in Japan. When they reached her apartment, Tatsuya asked if he could have a glass of water. Feeling sympathetic, Lindsay invited him inside, explaining the situation to her two roommates for safety. After receiving the water, Tatsuya thanked her by drawing a picture of her and including his contact details. Lindsay, known for her kindness, didn't suspect anything wrong. Tatsuya used this opportunity to mention his struggles with English and proposed that she give him private lessons. He promised to pay well, and they arranged to meet again in a few days at a cafe. That evening, Lindsay emailed her boyfriend in England, mentioning her new student and telling him about their upcoming lessons. On March 24th, Lindsay met Tatsuya at the cafe for the lesson. Afterward, Tatsuya offered to pay her but claimed he had forgotten the money. He suggested they go to his apartment so she could collect it, and Lindsay, trusting him, agreed. After leaving the cafe, Lindsay and Tatsuya took a taxi to his apartment. Upon arriving, Tatsuya paid for the ride, and Lindsay asked the driver to wait for her return. However, after waiting for about 7 minutes with no sign of her, the taxi driver left. Tatsuya attacked Lindsay immediately as she stepped into his apartment, leaving her unconscious. He then tied her up and gagged her. After that, he essayed her and tortured her. He then decided to get rid of her by strangling her. Due to the force, he broke the cartilage in the young woman's neck. When she didn't return to her apartment or the language school, her roommates and colleagues became worried. Lindsay was known for her punctuality, and her absence without any communication raised alarms. Her roommates, along with the school, contacted the authorities and informed them that Lindsay had gone to meet Tatsuya for a private English lesson, but hadn't returned. This led to the start of an investigation into her disappearance. 2 days after the disappearance of Lindsay, the police decided to focus their investigation on Tatsuya. Around 5:40 p.m., 2 officers were dispatched to his apartment, but due to protocol, they couldn't simply knock on his door without a valid reason. Instead, they waited outside, observing his apartment carefully. Although all the lights were off, the officers could tell someone was inside. After several minutes, they received alarming information from the central station, which revealed that Tatsuya had a criminal record, including accusations of theft and assault on a woman 6 years earlier, and was considered a potential danger. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, 7 more officers arrived at the scene. Together, they knocked on the door, and Tatsuya answered, appearing disheveled, barefoot, and with a backpack on his back, as though he were trying to leave in a hurry. The officers informed him that they were investigating the whereabouts of a woman named Lindsay. In response, Tatsuya bolted, running out of the apartment before they could react. One officer managed to grab his backpack, but Tatsuya quickly freed himself and continued to flee. Outside, other officers waiting below attempted to chase him, but Tatsuya's agility and speed proved too much for them. Despite their best efforts, the police couldn't catch up to him. Inside Tatsuya's apartment, the officers found several of Lindsay's personal items scattered around, heightening their suspicions. Later, a thorough search of the apartment revealed her lifeless body, hidden in the bathtub on the balcony. The police immediately contacted Lindsay's family in England to deliver the tragic news. Her relatives were devastated by the loss. Her boyfriend quickly flew to Japan to formally identify the body, and together with the family, they began preparing the necessary arrangements to repatriate her body. The murder of Lindsay, a young woman from England, quickly became a major news story, capturing the attention of both Japanese and British media. The case stirred memories of the infamous Lucy Blackman case from 2000, in which another British woman, Lucy, was brutally murdered in Japan by Joji Obara, a serial criminal whose actions involved over 400 victims, many of whom were filmed. Both crimes shared a disturbing similarity, drawing comparisons between the two tragic events. The search for Tatsuya proved to be frustrating for the police. Theories about his whereabouts began to emerge. Some believed he had taken his own life, while others thought he may have escaped the country. Despite mounting efforts, there was no sign of Tatsuya, and pressure from Lindsay's family, amplified by media coverage, kept the case in the public eye, ensuring it wouldn't fade from memory. The police released computer-generated images of Tatsuya, showing what he might look like in various disguises, alongside large-scale posters of his face to help with identification. In an attempt to generate leads, they also made the drawing Tatsuya had created for Lindsay public, hoping someone might recognize the style or the subject matter. In early 2008, a tip led the authorities to investigate a possible sighting of Tatsuya at a gay nightclub, where several women claimed to have had encounters with him before realizing his true identity. However, the lead proved to be a dead end. As the months passed, the police increased the reward for information to 1 million yen. By October 2008, the case had become one of the largest and most resource-intensive investigations in Japan's history, with around 140 officers working tirelessly to track down the fugitive. Despite their efforts, Tatsuya's whereabouts remained unknown. On June 26, 2009, in an effort to intensify the search, the Japan National Police Agency raised the reward from 1 million yen to 10 million yen. Despite being one of the country's most wanted fugitives, and with his image plastered across media outlets, Tatsuya seemed to have vanished without a trace, evading authorities for more than 2 years. However, on November 10, 2009, over 2 years after the murder, Tatsuya was finally apprehended while attempting to board a ferry in Osaka bound for Okinawa. His ability to remain undetected was because of the drastic measures he took to alter his appearance. Tatsuya underwent multiple cosmetic surgeries, some of which he performed on himself, including cutting parts of his lips to make them thinner, making him nearly unrecognizable. These modifications allowed him to blend into society and live a relatively normal life. He went out, socialized, and even worked for over a year at a construction company in Osaka without raising suspicion. The police were eventually able to track him down thanks to a combination of tips from various sources. Informants included staff members at a cosmetic surgery clinic in Nagoya, where Tatsuya had undergone one of his procedures, as well as an employee from the construction company in Osaka where he had worked for over a year. Additionally, a worker at the ferry company in Osaka, where Tatsuya was attempting to escape, provided crucial information. In the end, the 10 million yen reward was divided among all those who had contributed to the capture of the fugitive. During the 2 years Tatsuya Ichihashi was on the run, Lindsay Hawker's family worked tirelessly to find him. They traveled to Japan several times, distributing leaflets with his photo and details about the crime. Despite their efforts, They faced criticism and accusations of exploiting the situation for publicity. The campaign cost over £100,000, and Bill Hawker, Lindsay's father, had to borrow money from one of his daughters to cover some expenses. When Tatsuya was finally caught, the family traveled to Japan to thank the authorities. Initially, Tatsuya denied committing the crime, but eventually, the evidence led to a confession. Psychiatrists described him as a solitary person with a focus on physical fitness and a peculiar interest in violent manga. In July 2011, 4 years after the crime, Tatsuya was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. Although Lindsay's family requested the death penalty, the court did not grant it, citing his age and lack of previous murder convictions, considering he might still have a chance for rehabilitation. In Japan, death sentences are typically reserved for those convicted of multiple murders. While in prison, Tatsuya wrote a book titled Until I Was Arrested, published in 2011, where he detailed his life on the run. He offered royalties from the book to Lindsay's family, but they declined the offer. In 2013, a film based on his book, titled I Am Ichihashi, was released, which portrayed his time as a fugitive and how he survived while evading capture. The capture of Tatsuya Ichihashi brought some justice, but the pain of Lindsay's death remained with her family. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for more true crime content. See you next time.